Tonight, two titans of thought rise from the depths of history to answer one haunting question. Does progress make humanity better? On one side, Karl Marx, the revolutionary who saw history as a struggle for liberation through material progress. On the other, Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who tore down illusions, warning that progress breeds weakness and conformity. Let the debate begin.
Progress, Nietzsche, is the movement of humanity from ignorance to knowledge, from bondage to freedom. Every tool we invent, every system we improve, it's not mere technology. It's a step toward emancipation. When I speak of progress, I speak of history's engine, the class struggle. Through it, mankind transforms the world, and in that transformation, transforms itself. Feudalism gave way to capitalism. Capitalism shall give way to a higher order, communism, where human beings are no longer slaves to property, but masters of their collective destiny.
Ah, yes, the grand march of humanity, the beautiful illusion that history has a direction. But tell me, Marx, does a machine that grows stronger make its operator wiser? Does comfort make a man noble? You call it progress, I call it the taming of mankind. Your emancipation is the dream of the herd, the weak seeking safety in equality. You trade struggle, the source of greatness, for comfort. Progress? No, it is decay disguised as virtue.
You mistake collective advancement for weakness. The working class, the very masses you dismiss, are the true creators of history. They built the world, they suffer under exploitation, and through revolution they will reclaim what is theirs. Progress is not comfort, it's the awakening of consciousness, when man sees that the chains he wears were forged by his own labor.
Chains? You think you can free man by making him equal to his neighbor? You wish to lift the slave, but in doing so, you create a world where no master can exist. You destroy the soil where greatness grows. Your revolution is not awakening, it's sleepwalking toward mediocrity. You replace the individual strength with the mob's morality. And that, dear Marx, is the death of the human spirit.
You speak of greatness, Nietzsche, but greatness born of oppression is not greatness. It's privilege disguised as virtue. A handful of men ruling over millions. Is that your idea of nobility? True progress liberates all, not a chosen few. History's purpose is not to glorify the powerful, but to free humanity from domination.
And by doing so, you neuter the will to power, the very essence of life. Without hierarchy, without the drive to rise above, man becomes nothing. A gray animal preaching equality, fearing excellence. The so-called liberation you dream of, it will birth a new tyranny, the tyranny of the mediocre. A world where no one dares to be more than anyone else.
Then tell me, Nietzsche, should millions remain oppressed so that a few may feel noble? Progress means overcoming systems that reduce man to a cog in a machine. Under capitalism, the worker alienates himself. His labor becomes not an act of creation, but of survival. Progress is when man reclaims his humanity, not when he kneels to your mythical Übermensch.
You misunderstand the Übermensch. He is not a tyrant. He is the one who creates values when old gods have died. He looks at your system and laughs because he does not need collective redemption. He redeems himself. Progress does not come from machines or revolutions. It comes from the fire within, the courage to transcend, not to conform.
But that fire, as you call it, burns only when men are free from hunger, poverty, and exploitation. You speak of transcendence as if it's possible amid suffering. Before man can philosophize, he must first eat. Progress begins when the material world changes, when conditions of existence improve. Ideas do not float in the clouds, they rise from the soil of reality.
Yes, and that soil is poisoned by comfort. The more you feed man's body, the more his soul starves. Give him bread, he forgets the thrill of battle. Give him peace, and he forgets how to live. Your paradise will be full of fed, safe, and empty souls.
No, Nietzsche. In that paradise, men will finally begin to live, not merely survive under the shadow of greed. Progress makes humanity better because it ends exploitation. It awakens consciousness, and it builds a world where human potential belongs to all, not just the powerful.
And I say it will end the very spirit that makes humanity rise above itself. You will cure suffering and kill greatness. You speak of a liberated future, Marx, a world without exploitation, but I see a world without virtue. Your dream of equality will not make men moral, it will make them complacent. Morality born from comfort is not morality. It's cowardice dressed in compassion.
Morality is not born from comfort, Nietzsche. It's born from justice. The oppressed do not seek ease, they seek dignity. When the working man demands fairness, he is not being weak, he is being human. True morality arises when man understands his collective power and responsibility.
Collective morality, the greatest illusion of modernity. You turn morality into arithmetic. What serves the many becomes good. But herd morality kills the exceptional man, the creator, the thinker, the artist who dares to say no to the mob. Tell me, Karl, when all are equal, who will dare to be great?
The truly great man does not fear equality. He thrives when all are free to create, when the barriers of class no longer decide who can dream. Progress unlocks human potential, it doesn't flatten it. What you call the herd, I call humanity finally standing upright.
No, it is humanity lying down in comfort, worshipping pity and calling it progress. You replace the whip of kings with the leash of compassion. Man will no longer conquer mountains, he will build hospitals for the weak and call that his highest good. And the world will applaud him because no one dares to offend the new God, equality.
You fear compassion because you mistake it for weakness. I tell you, the future belongs not to the whip, but to solidarity. When suffering is reduced, man doesn't shrink, he rises. He can build, think, create, not because he must survive, but because he is finally free to live.
And in that freedom he will rot. Without resistance, there is no creation. Without suffering, no strength. Progress dulls the blade of the soul. You would build a world of comfort. I would build a world of greatness.
Greatness built on human misery is not greatness, it's arrogance. The true mark of progress is when greatness no longer requires victims.
And I say, when greatness no longer wounds, it no longer exists.
Speak of greatness and freedom, but what freedom can exist when man must sell his labor just to survive? Under capitalism, freedom is an illusion, a mask for exploitation. Progress demands that we change the structure of society, not merely the spirit of man.
You mistake external chains for the real prison. The true slave is not the worker. It is the one who obeys the morality of the crowd. Even if you freed every man materially, he would still kneel to comfort, to opinion, to mediocrity. Your revolution will change everything except the human soul.
The soul is shaped by material reality. Change the base, and the consciousness will follow. When men no longer live under economic domination, their spirit will evolve. Freedom will no longer belong to the few, it will be the condition of all.
The eternal faith in systems. You think man's soul can be engineered, but freedom cannot be distributed like wealth. It is earned through struggle, solitude, and self-overcoming. Your utopia will drown individuality in the swamp of the collective.
Individuality cannot flourish in chains. You glorify struggle, but you forget that for millions, struggle means hunger, not heroism. You romanticize suffering because you've never lived as the oppressed. Progress is not about removing struggle. It's about replacing meaningless suffering with purposeful creation. Suffering is not sacred. It is a wound inflicted by unjust systems. Man does not need to suffer to be strong. He needs to be free to create. Progress gives him the tools to shape the world by reason, not superstition. To build, not to bleed.
And yet, it is the bleeding man who births the poet, the prophet, the genius. You cannot create greatness without chaos. You cannot create strength without the storm.
And you cannot build a just world by worshiping storms. Progress is not about avoiding hardship. It's about ending oppression. A child born free from hunger and fear does not become weak. Nietzsche, he becomes human.
Perhaps that is where we truly differ, Marx. You see suffering as an evil to be cured. I see it as the forge of meaning. Man must wrestle with chaos to find himself. Without that struggle, he becomes a machine, efficient but empty.
And I say, meaning built on misery is false meaning. You wish to romanticize pain, but pain has crushed more souls than it has created. Progress is the refusal to glorify unnecessary suffering. The goal of history is not to worship tragedy, it is to overcome it.
Overcome it? No, embrace it. The man who says yes to life, even its pain, is the creator of values. Your revolution denies life's cruelty, and in doing so, denies life itself. Progress will make man safe, yes, but he will forget how to live dangerously.
To live dangerously for whom, Nietzsche? For the privileged who play with power while others starve. I seek a world where danger is chosen, not forced. Where struggle means creation, not survival. That, my friend, is real freedom.
Then perhaps your world will need no philosophers, for comfort kills the question, no poets, for equality silences distinction, and no heroes, for progress will teach man to fear pain more than he loves truth.
And I say the poet, the philosopher, and the hero will finally belong to everyone. Progress will not end greatness, it will end the monopoly on it. When all men can think, dream, and create, that will be humanity's true beginning. History is not random, Nietzsche. It moves not in circles but forward, driven by contradictions, by labor, by struggle. Every injustice contains the seed of its own destruction. That is progress, not illusion but dialectic necessity. Humanity will rise not by abandoning its past, but by transforming it.
You put too much faith in history, Karl. You think time itself has purpose, that destiny has direction. But I tell you, man invented meaning to escape chaos. Your dialectic is not nature. It is hope, wearing a philosopher's cloak.
Hope is not illusion. It is the most human of forces. It drives revolutions. It builds societies. It shatters tyranny. Without hope, there is no change, only resignation. Progress is not guaranteed, but it is possible because man can choose to shape his world.
And when he shapes it, he builds cages. Each progress becomes another morality, another system, another herd. You replace one God with another. God is dead, but in his place you build the altar of equality. And the herd will worship again, this time in your name.
Then perhaps it is better that men worship justice than power. Better that they build a society that uplifts than one that devours. Progress means moving from blind faith to conscious creation, where man becomes the architect of his destiny, not its slave.
And yet architects too become prisoners of their blueprints. Your new man will be nothing but a well-fed, obedient beast, efficient, moral, and utterly tame. When comfort rules, greatness dies.
Greatness that feeds on exploitation is not greatness, it's parasitism. Humanity's future lies not in domination, but in cooperation. When men work not against each other but with each other, that is true evolution.
Evolution demands struggle. Without it, there is no creation, no strength, no meaning. You would save humanity. I would challenge it to rise. Your paradise will be filled with comfort, mine with fire. Let history decide which burns brighter.
Friedrich, you see humanity as weak because you see only the sickness of your time. But I see potential. Every worker who dreams, every oppressed man who resists, that is the human soul refusing to die. Progress is not the enemy of strength, it is strength united. When the many stand together, they become invincible.
And when the many stand together too long, they forget how to stand alone. They lose the voice that whispers, "Become who you are." The herd chants, and the individual vanishes. You would save humanity's body, but I would save its soul.
Perhaps both must be saved, for what is a free soul in a starving body? Freedom means nothing when hunger dictates every thought. First, man must master the material, then he may ascend the spiritual. Progress builds the foundation for that ascent.
And in that very foundation lies his grave. Once man forgets the abyss, he forgets how to fly. Once he builds comfort, he forgets the beauty of the climb. Progress feeds the stomach, but it starves the will.
No, Nietzsche, progress does not kill the will, it frees it from fear. A man cannot climb when he is shackled by poverty. When he no longer lives in chains, he will climb not because he must, but because he chooses to. That is the future I believe in.
And I, in contrast, believe man climbs because he must, because the mountain is there, and death waits below. Necessity births greatness. Without it, your free man will have everything, except purpose.
Perhaps purpose will no longer come from domination, but from creation. When the means of life belong to all, man will create not from fear, but from love. And that, Nietzsche, will be the greatest act of human strength.
Love without danger becomes sentiment. Creation without suffering becomes decoration. Man's tragedy is his glory, and progress seeks to erase both.
Then I will still choose progress, even if it erases tragedy. Because every generation deserves to suffer less than the last.
I do not hate progress, Karl. I hate what man calls progress when it makes him smaller. If it creates higher souls, then let it come. But if it creates comfort without courage, peace without passion, life without struggle, then it is the slow suicide of mankind. I would rather live in chaos with meaning than in order without it.
And I say meaning that demands suffering is a luxury of the privileged. The true greatness of humanity will come when creation no longer requires cruelty. Progress is not suicide, it is rebirth. Every revolution is painful, yes, but it gives life, not death. I believe in the day when man no longer fears his neighbor, when the chains of exploitation are broken and freedom belongs to all.
Then we are both dreamers. You dream of a world without masters. I dream of men who master themselves. Perhaps both dreams are needed. For without you, man forgets justice. Without me,
he forgets greatness.
Then perhaps progress and struggle are not enemies, but companions on the same road. We both seek a better man. I through liberation, you through transcendence.
Yes, but remember, the path to the stars runs through the abyss. Never let your world forget how to suffer nobly.
And never let your world forget why it should suffer at all.